I need to make an announcement. I have stopped my Read What You Own challenge. Not because of anything bad, nothing went wrong, there's no drama, there's no emergencies. I simply bought 2 books on purpose. And honestly, it felt great. It was everything I wanted it to be and so much more. Okay, so I hope you know I'm kind of being sarcastic here. I've got a pretty dry sense of humor, but I am serious. I bought 2 books and I'm going to stop the Read What You Own challenge. And that's what this video is all about buying books. The 2 books I did buy, I'm happy to share them with you. I bought Gardens of the Moon, which is the first book of Malazan, Book of the Fallen by Stephen Erickson, dark fantasy. And the second book I bought was Waste Tide by Chen Qiufan. It's a Chinese science fiction author, and I'm really kind of getting into Chinese science fiction. There'll be some more videos coming on that soon. So yeah, I bought these 2 books and I wasn't supposed to. You know, I'm doing the Read What You Own challenge. So I'm going to stop. And the reason I'm going to stop is because I realized when I bought these books that book buying isn't a failure of discipline. It can be a part of being a healthy reader. And that's what I'm going to talk about today, why book buying deserves some celebration. So somewhere along the way, I started treating buying books like it was a bad habit. And instead of recognizing it's just a way to stay curious and engaged, I kind of demonized it in my mind. And I felt like, oh, I need to stop doing that. And to a certain extent, I did need to stop doing it, but I think I needed to sort of sit down actually and rethink what I was doing. So I think the best way and the best reason to buy books is as an expression of curiosity. You know, book buying is often responding to some kind of spark, some kind of intellectual spark, some kind of intellectual curiosity. And those things don't really arrive on schedule. We can't time them. We can't say it's only going to be done on Tuesday night. It happens. You know, we hear things in podcasts. We read something in the newspaper. For those of us who still read newspapers, you see videos online. Hopefully you're watching this video and you just get inspired and you say, I want to read that book. I want to try that book, or that author sounds amazing. Or like the way that person described that book was just like, wow, I want to partake in that. And so I think the act of buying a book is also kind of saying, I want to explore this, or I want to know about this, or I want to be a part of this. So I'd rather honor curiosity than suppress it for the sake of a rule. Now, the second reason I think that we want to celebrate buying books, it's a little bit selfish and there is a little bit of privilege and prestige that goes with it. But bear with me, and I think most of us will agree that a home with books is a good thing. I like having that bookshelf, and I like having my chair next to it. You can't really see much of this room, but I've kind of turned this little room into my reading room. You know, some people, they might have a gaming room. You might have a home theater. I'm not into all that kind of stuff, but I am into reading. And I live in a big apartment. I live alone. I'm terminally single here. So I just figured, you know what? I'm just going to have my tiny little library, and I'm just going to have my little space for reading. And having it there, it kind of reminds me of who I am, even when I'm not reading, even if I'm just in here sitting on the phone or, watching something on YouTube or listening to some music. It's just really nice to have those books there and to have them on that shelf. And, a shelf isn't a performance. It shouldn't be performative at all. It should be an expression of your personal taste. It should be something that you curate and you develop over time, and you add to it over time, and you take away from it over time. It can be a highly personal thing, and I think it can be a really rewarding thing to have in your home. For me personally, I like living in a place that invites reading rather than limits it or audits it. Okay. Now, this third one kind of ties back to the first point that I made, and that's that buying books helps keep the ecosystem alive. Authors don't write in a vacuum, and small presses and mid-list writers, and now increasingly self-published authors. I think this is probably more popular, or more common, I should say, than being on a small press. It's certainly more common than being on a big press. And, those authors really do rely on sales much more than big authors, much more than authors like, Stephen King or Patterson. Not that there's anything wrong with those authors. There's nothing wrong with buying their books, but they don't really need the sales. Andy Weir doesn't need to sell another copy of The Martian, but there are some self-published authors out there that really do need to sell their books. And I think as readers, that's one thing that we can do to help keep that kind of whole cycle alive. And so book buying is one way for readers to participate, not just to consume, but to participate in kind of the whole ecosystem of writing and publishing. So sometimes buying a book is an act of support and not just blind consumption. Okay. Now, this next one kind of ties into just the general idea of owning things. But, owning books means that you're never between reads. It means that you've always got some options with you, and it really reduces the friction. It can reduce the amount of time between books. In fact, there could be no time between books. What a wonderful way to live, right? The other thing too is if you're like me and you're kind of a mood reader, when your mood shifts, you've got some choices there. And it's a lot easier to read more and to keep kind of 2 or 3 books on the go at once. So I often read a collection of short stories at the same time, well, not at the same time, but alongside reading a novel, because I just find that it helps kind of it helps satisfy the curiosity, it helps satisfy my moods as a reader, and it just helps me keep going as a reader. And it also helps keep your curiosity going. So your curiosity and your tastes kind of change as seasons change, as kind of the vibe and the energy change, as the pace of life changes, especially with holidays and things like that. Maybe it's summertime and you're going to the beach, or you got some time off and you just want to read a big dumb book that you don't have to think about too much, but it's fun to read. You've got that handy, or maybe it's fall and winter and the moods change. You want to read something a little more introspective, a little more reflective. You've got that handy there. For me personally, I like knowing the next book is already waiting. As I'm close to finishing one book, I'll kind of choose the next book, but that's just me. So this last one, maybe this is just me personally, but maybe some of you people can relate to it. And if you can relate to it, let me know in the comments. But, unread books represent possibilities, not guilt. I really started to feel guilty about having, that whole shelf there full of books. And I don't know why. It's just something kind of got into my head where I just felt bad about it. It just kind of felt like a failure. And it's not failure. It's just future reading, future conversations with other readers and other writers that you just haven't had yet. So you don't need to read everything you own immediately to justify owning it. I do think it's good to, have a plan to read the books that you have. And I do think it's good to, to buy intentionally. But not every book is meant for right now. And that's fine. So, to kind of wrap it up here, I stopped the Read What You Own challenge. I bought 2 books, and instead of feeling like I slipped up, I feel more of myself as a reader. And actually, I'm really glad that I did do it. Even though I didn't hit my goal, I only read 20 of 75. So I didn't even get halfway. But rather than beat myself up about it, I actually do feel kind of good about it. And I'm glad that I did stop buying books for a certain period of time. I think I made it about 10 weeks. I'd have to go back and check my first video, but I think it's about 10 weeks. And I'm really glad I did that because I'll be honest, I was kind of blindly buying books on impulse. I was often intentionally searching for one book and then kind of getting 2 or 3 others along with it. And I needed to stop doing that. It's okay to buy things deliberately and intentionally, but it's not good to just buy things blindly. And I was doing that. So I'm glad I stopped doing that. At the same time, though, I'm kind of glad I've started doing it again because it is something to look forward to. It is something to be excited about. Yes, it's consumption, but, it could be worse. Buying books is better than, buying booze. It's better than buying drugs, so it's not such a bad thing, If it helps keep curiosity alive, if it helps keep your intellect alive, it helps keep your mind sharp, It helps, your home feel comfy. It's like a space you want to be in. I don't think any of those are a problem. And that's the point. So let me know in the comments, what's a book you bought recently for no practical reason at all? Or what's a book you bought recently just to satisfy your own curiosity? So feel free to leave some comments below and let me know what you think.